It starts quietly. You are 7 years old, maybe 8, and you are standing in a room watching a parent fall apart. Maybe it is addiction, maybe it is rage, maybe it is just the hollow silence of someone too broken to show up. And something ancient clicks inside your small mind without anyone teaching it to you. If I do not hold this together, no one will. That is the moment the child disappears. Not physically, psychologically. You smile more, you cry less. You learn to read the room before you speak. You become the emotional thermostat of a household that was never your responsibility to regulate. You become a small adult long before your mind was ready to be one. And the world praises you for it. You are so mature, you are so responsible, you are so strong. But nobody ever stops to ask the question that matters. At what cost? This video is about that cost, because the effects of growing up too fast do not disappear with age. They follow you, into your relationships, into your sense of worth, into the way you love, and the way you fall apart when you finally allow yourself to. And if you never understand what happened to you, you will spend your entire adult life repeating the survival patterns that once kept you safe, but are now quietly destroying you. Part 1. What parentification actually does to a child. When children are forced to emotionally support adults instead of the other way around, psychologists call it parentification. The child becomes the caregiver, the peacekeeper, the therapist, the one who manages everyone else's emotional states while their own go completely unaddressed. And this is not just emotionally harmful. It rewires the brain at a structural level. When a child is consistently placed in charge of emotional regulation, either their own or the adults around them, it produces something called hypervigilance. The nervous system learns that the environment is unpredictable and potentially threatening, so it stays permanently alert. You walk on eggshells. You scan every room you enter for danger before you allow yourself to relax. You learn that love is a transaction. You provide peace and stability, and in return, you might receive something that resembles safety. You learn that your needs are dangerous and everyone else's are urgent. So you disappear. Not physically, but emotionally. And in your place grows a version of you that performs exceptionally well. The good child. The quiet achiever, the friend who always knows what to say, the one who never asks for anything. You wear that identity so convincingly that eventually even you forget it is a mask. But underneath it, something aches. Something in you that never got to simply be a child is still there, still waiting, still asking the question it never got an answer to. Why did nobody protect me? Part 2. What it looks like when you grow up. The symptoms of a childhood stolen by premature responsibility do not announce themselves clearly in adulthood. They are subtle. They are often mistaken for personality traits, and they are almost never recognized for what they actually are, the learned strategies of a child who had no other choice. You might become hyper-independent, refusing help not because you do not need it, but because needing anything from anyone feels dangerous. You might feel inexplicably numb during happy moments. Joy feels unfamiliar, unearned, and somehow threatening, as if it is something that will be taken away the moment you let yourself feel it fully. You might struggle to rest because productivity is the only metric by which you have ever measured your own worth. If you are not useful, you do not know who you are. And perhaps most damaging of all, you might not even recognize that you are still operating in survival mode. Because when dysfunction is the environment you were raised in, your nervous system does not experience it as dysfunction. It experiences it as normal. Stillness feels wrong. Peace feels suspicious. Love feels like a debt you will eventually be expected to repay. These are not character flaws. These are the logical conclusions of a nervous system that learned its lessons too young and too well. Part 3. Why the child did not have a choice. Here is the thing most people who grew up too fast spend years not understanding about themselves. The role you took on was never a conscious decision. It was not weakness. It was not codependency in the way that the word gets thrown around carelessly. It was biology operating exactly as it was designed to. Children will do almost anything for attachment. In the absence of safety, a child will sacrifice their own authenticity for belonging. The choice to become the caregiver, the peacekeeper, the one who holds everything together, that was never really a choice. It was the only available strategy for survival in an environment that offered no better options. That is not a character flaw. That is intelligence. That is instinct. That is a nervous system doing the only thing it knew how to do to keep you safe. But here is the tragedy that follows that intelligence into adulthood. What saved you then imprisons you now. The hypervigilance that kept you alert to danger in a genuinely dangerous environment now fires in rooms where there is no threat. The self-erasure that kept the peace in a volatile household now prevents you from advocating for yourself in relationships where it would be safe to do so. The compulsive caretaking that once earned you scraps of safety now drives you to exhaust yourself for people who have never once asked what you need. The strategies were never the problem. The problem is that you are still using them long after the war ended. Part 4. The survival patterns nobody talks about. Most people who grew up too fast become adults who are extraordinarily difficult to truly know. Not because they are dishonest, but because the version of themselves they present to the world was built specifically to be acceptable, manageable, and non-threatening. They became the therapist in every friendship, but never let anyone truly see them. They became fiercely praised for their independence when underneath they are terrified of being perceived as a burden. In relationships, they overfunction, always fixing, always managing, always anticipating the other person's needs before their own, and then feeling a resentment they cannot fully explain because they signed up for this dynamic without understanding why. They struggle with boundaries not because they do not know what a boundary is, but because saying no still carries the emotional weight of a child who learned that their refusal could destabilize the entire household. And there is a fantasy that almost everyone who grew up too fast carries somewhere inside them. The fantasy that someone will finally notice. That someone will look past the competence and the composure and the always being fine and say, "I see you. I know you are not as strong as you look, and you will not have to hold it together today." That fantasy is not weakness. It is the unmet need of a child who never got to fall apart safely. And it follows people for decades because it was never actually resolved. It was simply buried under the performance of being okay. Part 5. The beginning of coming back. The first step toward healing for the child who grew up too fast is not fixing, it is witnessing. Because until you actually validate what happened to you, not minimize it, not contextualize it into someone else's pain, not tell yourself it was not that bad, you will continue gaslighting yourself with thoughts like, "I turned out fine." Fine is a mask, and somewhere underneath it, you already know that. Carl Jung said there is no coming to consciousness without pain. People will do anything, no matter how absurd, to avoid facing their own soul. Shadow work, the process of turning toward the abandoned parts of yourself rather than away from them, is not about fixing what happened. It cannot be fixed. It is about feeling the grief you never had time to feel, the rage, the sorrow, the deep unmet need of a child who was asked to be an adult before they understood what childhood even was. What you are doing when you begin this process is not becoming someone new. You are remembering who you were before the world told you who to be, before the performance began, before you learned that your softness was a liability and your needs were an inconvenience. That person did not disappear. They went quiet, and they have been waiting with extraordinary patience for you to come back for them. You are the only one who can. No one else is coming. But you do not need anyone else. You just need to turn around and go back for the child you left behind. Tell them what nobody ever told them. You did not deserve that. You were just a child, and you can rest now. Final thoughts. If you grew up too fast, your maturity was never the problem. The problem was that you had no choice. But now you do. You can choose softness. You can choose to receive help without it feeling like weakness. You can choose to stop managing everyone else's emotional world and start inhabiting your own. Not all at once, not without difficulty, but one honest moment at a time. There will be days when the child in you surfaces and you do not know what to do with them. Good. That is the work. Let them come. Let them feel what they never got to feel. Let them be witnessed by the only person who was always there and the only one who can truly give them what they needed. You never had a childhood, but you still have a future. And this time, you get to write it on your own terms. Not through fear, not through performance, through truth.